Chapter 8 of Mathilda. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Corey Samuel. Mathilda by Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. Chapter 8. I was carried to the next town. Fever succeeded to convulsions and faintings, and for some weeks my unhappy spirit hovered on the very verge of death. But life was yet strong within me. I recovered, nor did it a little aid my returning health that my recollections were at first vague, and that I was too weak to feel any violent emotion. I often said to myself, my father is dead. He loved me with a guilty passion, and stung by remorse and despair, he killed himself. Why is it that I feel no horror? Are these circumstances not dreadful? Is it not enough that I shall never more meet the eyes of my beloved father, never more hear his voice, no caress, no look? All cold and stiff and dead. Alas, I am quite callous. The night I was out in was fearful, and the cold rain that fell about my heart has acted like the waters of the cavern of Antipyros, and has changed it to stone. I do not weep or sigh, but I must reason with myself, and force myself to feel sorrow and despair. This is not resignation that I feel, for I am dead to all regret. I communed in this manner with myself, but I was silent to all around me. I hardly replied to the slightest question, and was uneasy when I saw a human creature near me. I was surrounded by my female relations, but they were all of them nearly strangers to me. I did not listen to their consolations, and so little did they work their designed effect, that they seemed to me to be spoken in an unknown tongue. I found if sorrow was dead within me, so was love and desire of sympathy. Yet sorrow only slept to revive more fierce, but love never woke again. Its ghost, ever hovering over my father's grave, alone survived. Since his death, all the world was to me a blank, except where woe had stamped its burning words, telling me to smile no more. The living were not fit companions for me. And I was ever meditating by what means I might shake them all off, and never be heard of again. My convalescence rapidly advanced. Yet this was the thought that haunted me, and I was for ever forming plans how I might hereafter contrive to escape the tortures that were prepared for me when I should mix in society, and to find that solitude which alone could suit one whom an untold grief separated from her fellow creatures. Who can be more solitary, even in a crowd, than one whose history and the never-ending feelings and remembrances arising from it is known to no living soul? There was too deep a horror in my tale for confidence. I was on earth the sole depository of my own secret. I might tell it to the winds and to the desert heaths, but I must never among my fellow creatures, either by word or look, give allowance to the smallest conjecture of the dread reality. I must shrink before the eye of man, lest he should read my father's guilt in my glazed eyes. I must be silent, lest my faltering voice should betray unimagined horrors. Over the deep grave of my secret I must heap an impenetrable heap of false smiles and words, cunning frauds, treacherous laughter, and a mixture of all light deceits would form a mist to blind others, and be as the poisonous simoon to me. I, the offspring of love, the child of the woods, the nursling of nature's bright self, was to submit to this? I dared not. How must I escape? I was rich and young, and had a guardian appointed for me, and all about me would act as if I were one of their great society, while I must keep the secret that I really was cut off from them for ever. If I fled, I should be pursued. In life there was no escape for me. Why then I must die. I shuddered. I dared not die, even though the cold grave held all I loved. Although I might say with Job, "Where now is my hope? For my hope who shall see it? They shall go down together to the bars of the pit, when our rest together is in the dust." Yes, my hope was corruption and dust, and all to which death brings us. Or after life. No, no, I will not persuade myself to die. I may not, dare not. And then I wept. Yes, warm tears once more struggled into my eyes, soothing yet bitter. And after I had wept much, and called with unavailing anguish with outstretched arms for my cruel father, after my weak frame was exhausted by all variety of plaint, I sank once more into reverie, and once more reflected on how I might find that which I most desired, dear to me if aught were dear, a death-like solitude. I dared not die, but I might feign death, and thus escape from my comforters. They will believe me united to my father, and so indeed I shall be. For alone, when no voice can disturb my dream, and no cold eye meet mine to check its fire, then I may commune with his spirit, on a lone heath, at noon or at midnight, still I should be near him. His last injunction to me was that I should be happy. Perhaps he did not mean the shadowy happiness that I promised myself, yet it was that alone which I could taste. He did not conceive that ever again I could make one of the smiling hunters that go coursing after bubbles that break to nothing when caught, and then after a new one with brighter colours. My hope also had proved a bubble, but it had been so lovely, so adorned, that I saw none that could attract me after it. Besides, I was wearied with the pursuit, nearly dead with weariness. I would fain to die. My contented heirs would seize upon my wealth, and I should purchase freedom. But then my plan must be laid with art. I would not be left destitute. I must secure some money. Alas, to what loathsome shifts must I be driven? Yet a whole life of falsehood was otherwise my portion, and when remorse at being the contriver of any cheat made me shrink from my design, I was irresistibly led back and confirmed in it by the visit of some aunt or cousin who would tell me that death was the end of all men, and then say that my father had surely lost his wits ever since my mother's death, that he was mad, and that I was fortunate, for in one of his fits he might have killed me instead of destroying his own crazed being. And all this, to be sure, was delicately put, not in broad words, for my feelings might be hurt, but whispered so and so, in dark hint, soft and low, with downcast eyes, and sympathizing smiles or whimpers. And I listened with quiet countenance, while every nerve trembled. I, that dared not utter aye or nay to all this blasphemy. Oh, this was a delicious life, quite void of guile. I, with my dove's look and fox's heart. For indeed I felt only the degradation of falsehood, and not any sacred sentiment of conscious innocence that might redeem it. I, who had before clothed myself in the bright garb of sincerity, must now borrow one of diverse colours. It might sit awkwardly at first, but use would enable me to place it in elegant folds, to lie with grace. Aye, I might dye my soul with falsehood, until I had quite hid its native colour. O beloved father, accept the pure heart of your unhappy daughter. Permit me to join you unspotted as I was, or you will not recognize my altered semblance. As grief might change Constance, so would deceit change me, until in heaven you would say, "This is not my child." My father, to be happy both now and when again we meet, I must fly from all this life which is mockery to one like me. In solitude only shall I be myself.